Good afternoon or good morning, everyone, depending on which region you're in today. My name is Joeri, actually, and I will be your guide through the last class of our summer school. Normally, school's out for summer, but in our case, school's out for fall, as this was a summer school. The last edition will be all about NextGen marketing. Perhaps some of you would know this book, How Cool Brands Stay Hot, Branding to Generation Y. It's a book that has been written almost 5 years ago, and it's in its third edition. The difference between the last edition that came out in April this year and the previous ones is that there's a new chapter on Generation Z, or Generation Z, where we're trying to figure out how this new young generation is different than the previous ones. Just as a small reminder, this is an overview of the different generations, and there's of course still an older generation as well, the silent generation, older than 70 years old. But we as marketers, we tend to focus on these generations. I've tried to summarize each generation into just one single word. And when we look at the baby boomers, this, by the way, is based on a piece of research we did with InSites Consulting last year in 8 markets. So about 10,000 people were interviewed in the 4 different generations. And I'm about to share some of the results with you. So the baby boomers, if we would summarize them one word coming out of the different analysis we did on the generation, is they're quite confident. They're in a stage of life where they feel confident. They feel they've achieved the things they want to achieve. They're very happy with their kids and with the grandchildren. When we compare that to Gen X, that's unfortunately, it's my generation. I'm 45 myself, and I'm fully part of this Gen X generation. I could say that a good summary would be that they're totally stressed out. They're probably in their 3rd marriage by now, or at least in newly composed families. They have children that are in puberty, which brings a lot of stress at home. They're also in a certain phase of their career where they want to move up to the executive positions, but are confronted with baby boomers that are happy to work forever until they're 95. And on the other hand, they feel the pressure of the millennials, Generation Y, at the work floor, actually, that are quite eager to take over their jobs. Generation Y, born between 80 and 96, used to be my main focus in the research that I'm doing. As I told you earlier, today I'm also involved with Gen Z. Generation Y, millennials, we could summarize them as they want to balance. They want to balance both work and life, and they feel they can balance. They also feel they're much more efficient than the older Generation X, and they can solve the issues much faster than the older Generation X. So that's why Generation X is totally stressed out, not only in private life, but also in the professional life. Next to the millennials, I will come back to the millennials, of course, later on, is Gen Z, the new kids on the block, you could say, born between 97 and 2012. And they're, of course, very eager to get more independence. They want to grow up. They want to decide themselves how long they can stay up and go out and have fun. So I could summarize them as very, very impatient. Now, after writing a book on millennials, the typical question I got in my presentations was always, okay, are you really sure there's a difference between millennials and baby boomers, for instance? Often a baby boomer in the room would feel exactly the same as all the stuff I was talking about when I was talking about millennials. And the second question was typically, what about the younger generation, the new ones coming up? How do they differ from millennials? So to cope with both questions, we did this study last year, finding out the differences between the generations. By the way, when I'm talking about NextGen, it's a combination of the 2 youngest generations, so both millennials and Generation Z. Okay, In this presentation, I will, together with you, explore the 4 characteristics we found on NextGen. So the 4 things that are really different between Gen Y, Z, and the older generations, X and the baby boomers. To summarize them, I'll talk about 4 different DNA aspects. 2 of them have to do with me, myself, and I, you could say, and 2 of them are more in a group to be positioned in a group feeling. So the first one is I'm making it myself. The second one, I'm ready to level up. And then we'll also discuss about the dreaming of a better world and being snappy as a generational aspect as well. As I told you before, there are some me aspects, there are some we aspects in this discussion. And I think it's typical for marketing to younger generations. When people grow up, they are looking for their own identity, which is a combination of things you want for yourself on one hand. You want to be different than other people. And on the other hand, you don't want to stand out and be alienated with your friends or groups or certain lifestyles. So the we aspect is that you actually want to affiliate with people that are like-minded. So we should always keep in mind that it's a combination of me and we aspects. Now, one good question, and it's also a question that we were investigating in our research last year, would be what is the most important then for a brand if you address young generations? Is it the more we aspects, like being more socially engaged, being involved with fair trade or social goals on one hand, or would it rather be allowing personalization, which is more a me factor? I want my own soccer shirt, for instance. As you can see, this is an example of Red Bull. Red Bull has the Wings for Life World Run on one hand, which sponsors a good cause, a charity goal. And on the other hand, they are also sponsoring soccer teams and allowing each individual to actually create their own shirt, for instance, a New York Red Bulls shirt. So what's most important for Gen Z? Gen Z, the youngest ones, so 4 to 19-year-olds. You can think of that for a few minutes, but not too long, because I only have 1 hour for this webinar. Can they vote also, Emily? Yeah. Oh, they can't vote. Okay, you can vote for yourself. What we saw in the research is actually that for the youngest, allowing personalization is more important. Emily was just pointing out one of the questions. I think to stick to the timing, Emily will summarize all the questions, and after the session, we'll go into the Q&A if that's okay for you. So I'll come back to the questions you're posting. Do post them throughout the presentation. Whenever you feel that you have a question, post them. Emily will gather them, and I'll come back to them later on. So allowing personalization for the youngest 4 to 19-year-olds is very important. This is the graph behind this analysis, and it's the European average. We also have US, we have Australian figures as well, but we see the same kind of tendency when it comes to this specific question. As you can see, the orange bar is Generation Z, the greenish bar is Y or millennials, the dark blue one is Gen X, and the pink one is baby boomers. And from the results, you see that for millennials, both aspects, being socially engaged and allowing personalization, is important. Whereas if you look at the orange bar, Gen Z is more fond of personalization, a bit less socially engaged. They're also into trendy brands, more luxury brands, international brands, and up-to-date brands. And I'll come back to that later on in this presentation. So the first characteristic of NextGen, creating something yourself, making something yourself. I think it's a big difference if you look at the different generations. If you look at Gen X, my own generation, it was all about I've made it, in a sense of I've studied well, I have a nice career, I can afford palm trees, 2 weeks in a year at least on a holiday. So I want to show off. I want to show off the things that I've achieved. And of course, brands play an important role in that. Brands endorse my status, my image, my prestige. So I buy brands. Actually, I buy brands even to be a cooler guy. That's something typical for a Gen Xer. Then came the millennials, and suddenly it wasn't about making something or making it yourself, but actually it was more about being 24/7 connected with your friends, being able to achieve everything in life, whether it was co-creating something, skipping the Gen Xer at the work floor and going straight to the CEO, or even doing a flash mob on a wedding party. It's something typical for millennials. They like to do stuff together, which is also the reason why co-creation campaigns. This is one example from the nets, where a soft drink producer actually asked 20 girls and 20 boys to come up with new flavors. And then in the end made the entire population to vote for either one of both. And the one with the most votes was actually produced. I'm sure you know a lot of other examples in other industries as well. Co-creation is typically something that millennials like because they feel that they're empowered to have their vote inside the production process. And then comes the Gen Z. Gen Z are the children of Gen X, so they share the same values to a certain extent, and so the I is again more important. And Gen Zer, as said before, is very eager, very impatient to have an influence on society. So if they can create something themselves and hyper-personalize it, preferably with their own stamp on it, it's quite interesting to them. One example was last summer, Lay's, part of the PepsiCo company, did this summer campaign where you could personalize your own bag of chips, put a picture on the bag, your own caption, and then the first 10,000 entrants actually got a box of their own personalized chips at home. This is my youngest daughter, by the way, a very cool girl, only 8 years old. So instead of a brand as a hero, when you want people to have an influence on the product, it's all about users as a hero. And we see more and more brands and companies, retailers, are into that type of production, you could say. Even McDonald's, which is actually a brand that's addressing the mainstream market, understands that today to be relevant, they have to allow their customers to personalize their own hamburger. So you can actually create your own burger at home and come to the store with your QR code, and the staff in the store will create the hamburger not like they have been trained by McDonald's, but like you have selected at home. It's just one example. A nice one is Oreo cookies. Oreo, part of the Mondelez group, started to allow their consumers to personalize their packaging for a Christmas campaign. So they could color in their own package, put their own label on the cookies, and then received it at home. Only they sold it for $10, whereas the normal price would be $2. So people were willing to pay an $8 premium just to get a personalized cookie at home. And it started with a Christmas campaign, as I told you. In the meanwhile, they're doing it for several days, and actually you can personalize your Oreo cookies whenever you like for extra dollars, and for $5 you get it delivered at home. It seems that this model is actually successful for Mondelez, as it brings in $2.7 billion in direct-to-consumer e-commerce for a company that wasn't actually used to use direct-to-consumer sales anyway. So we could call it the me economy instead of the we economy. It's all about hyper personalization. And even in banking and finance, you see examples. This is an example from New Zealand, where the ASB Bank that was sponsoring a marathon promised to the people running the marathon that they would get a better mortgage rate if they had a good time. So the lower the time, the lower the mortgage interest rate. So again, this is the economy. You're influencing the production, even in financial services. Another example from the toy industry or gaming industry is this game, Minecraft. Was actually one of the first games that allowed users to create their own game totally, starting with the random typical Swedish landscape, I would say, with pine trees. You could create your own homes, your own houses, your own trees, your own animals. And when comparing Minecraft to other games, it was totally different. There's not a real goal in Minecraft. You don't have levels. There's not real enemies apart from some zombies that try to catch you if you're not building a home. But it's totally different than other games. And the main point is the user is the hero. You create your own game. Minecraft, in the meantime, has more than 100 million people that actually paid for the game and downloaded the game. And as you know, it has been sold to Microsoft 2 years ago for $2.5 billion, a game that was created actually in just 1 week by a Swedish 24-year-old millennial. Now, another good example of this economy is the craft trend, craft with a C. Craft with a K, the multinational, announced a year ago that they have a 16% decrease in revenues because of craft with a C. So people want to buy a local cheese, an organic cheese from a local cheese maker. They want to cuddle the sheep behind the cheese rather than buy a multinational brand somewhere created in Philadelphia. And this is challenging many businesses of many multinationals, of course. So many multinationals, whether it's in the beer industry or other food industries, are actually buying craft producers to cope with this trend. But it's still not, to me, it's not a good strategy. And for the last edition of the book, I had the pleasure actually to interview Åsa Koop. And Åsa used to be the Global Innovation Director of Absolut Vodka. And she said to me at a certain point, people like ourselves, InSites and other research agencies and trend watchers came back to Absolut, stating that there was this craft tendency where people like small batch liquors from a local store nearby or local distillery. And she was doubting what she would do with this trend, as Absolut is, of course, a multinational brand. It's quite hard to state that the Absolut vodka is local in the US, for instance, if it has the Swedish roots. So after thinking about this, she came up with a great idea, a new company called R Vodka. And she actually convinced Pernod Ricard to support his idea. The idea is to find local entrepreneurs in urban cities across the world, starting with Berlin, by the way, and this was the Detroit micro distillery. Entrepreneurs that have some experience in targeting young markets, but not in the liquor industry. For instance, in fashion or in going out in lifestyle, or even in record labels, whatever, but not in the liquor industry. And then Pernod Ricard would ask them, are you willing to start up your own distillery, your own micro distillery within your city? If you are, we will support you. We will invest some money in creating a distillery that people can visit in the city. And you're actually in charge of the marketing, you're in charge of selecting the distribution channels as well. So it started with our Berlin. The idea is that entrepreneurs that are willing to cooperate with Pernod Ricard get 25% of the profits. And after Berlin, they've in the meantime introduced several other cities and micro distilleries in the Netherlands, in the UK, and in the US as well. And as far as I understood, the first ones that were started like 2 to 3 years ago are at this point break even. Now, and as you can probably you can't really see it, but it's quite a small bottle. It's only 350 milliliters. and it's retailed for the same price as a big bottle of Absolute vodka. So you have half the volume for the same price, meaning this is a premium positioning. And it works because it's local, it's urban, you can visit the distillery, and it's a way of coping with the craft trend. So the first DNA aspects, I'm making it myself. We've been discussing the me economy, co-creation, hyper-personalization, and also the craft movement. Let's go to the second DNA aspect. And again, I'm using one of the questions we've asked to the 4 different generations. And the questions was, do you want to have a career abroad? Do you want to earn a lot of money? Do you want to start your own business? Think of it. Do you think millennials, 19 to 35-year-olds, would rather want this, or do you think it's the youngest ones, the 4 to 19-year-olds, Generation Z? A moment of reflection. From the research, we saw that it's something we see more with the youngest generation. And these are the results from the survey. As you can see, more the orange bar, more Gen Zers are into starting an own business, into working abroad, even being on the road, having a career, and making a lot of money. So the second DNA aspect is all about being ready to level up. One of the TV programs that is working on this dimension is actually Shark Tank. If you know Shark Tank, it's the successor of Dragon's Den. So it's a combination of pop idols, you could say, or the X Factor with young business ideas. You have a panel of investors that decide on business plans, which plan they would invest in. And one of the great examples is Michaela Ulmer, a 10-year-old girl that came up with an idea to create a lemonade based on her grandmother's recipe. A lemonade that uses honey, and actually the goal behind creating this lemonade was also to support bees. As you know, there is less bees in the environment, and so with the profits, part of the profits go to the Saving the Bee Foundation, you could say. So the Me and the Bees lemonade was her idea in Shark Tank, and she was one of the winners actually. She received $60,000 to start up her own business, and a few months ago she was able to rake in a big $1 million deal with Whole Foods, the US food retailer. So we often think of young people as YOLO. You only live once. We all want to experience amazing, awesome, extraordinary things. And that's true. I mean, if you're young, you still want to, you have your bucket list full of experiences. But YOLO to me doesn't equal YOLT. You only live once doesn't equal you only live today. There is a tomorrow also in the head of young people. So actually having guts or being bold is not just about having balls and doing stuff like bungee jumping, threesomes, or other thrills you can find in the short term. It's more about having goals actually, which is the longer term dimension. And we often think that young people are only concerned about short term stuff. When I look at the research we've been doing, they do have their long term goals. One of the brands that understands how young people are ready to level up and that they want to go for the long term dimension, Nike. Nike, since 2009, has the Nike Academy. It's a football academy in England, and they're actually there to train young soccer players. So they start with a competition called Nike Most Wanted in more than 30 countries across the world, where they're looking for the young talents in every young football team. So every team can nominate a certain guy or girl that is actually their star player. In the next phase, these star players will compete with other star players within their country and then, of course, also internationally. And in the end, Nike has 10 students, 10 pupils that go to a kind of summer school like this one each year and receive training from a professional coach, also coaching, career coaching, but they can also play matches together with the stars and the athletes that Nike is sponsoring. Now, this great idea, actually, as they have been doing that since 2009, also brought some results. In total, the Nike Academy today has more than 50 alumni that actually competed in the most wanted contests, followed the training of the Nike Academy, and are today playing professionally soccer in first league teams across Europe. So that's actually, again, the user as the hero, and also a brand supporting the ready to level up idea. Some other more short-term examples, H&M, for instance, in Poland, is giving free exercise classes like CrossFit trainings or even boxing classes, I think. And if you follow the classes, you earn some points for every calorie that you're burning, and you can redeem the points in every H&M store. So if you follow many classes, you can actually buy a shirt or a skirt or whatever at H&M just from doing sports. So H&M is a brand also supporting young people to be more active. This ready to level up stuff, it's also something that's quite useful in a broader HR perspective. This is again an example of Mondelez, but I know that companies like PepsiCo are also involved with this way of allowing young millennials at the work floor to cooperate with older generations within the company, but also with companies outside of the company. So Mondelez has the Futures program. In 2012, they started with a mobile Futures program where they were allowing young people to work together with mobile startups to find new ways of actually connecting with the consumer through their mobiles, actually. And one of the business ideas that came out of the mobile futures was BetaBox, a company that in the meanwhile, a company based on the idea of mobile loyalty cards that has been sold by Mondelez in the meanwhile. Today they've actually started with the Shopper Futures program, where they actually are connecting, these are some of the guys and girls within Mondelez from different brands that are part of the Shopper Futures program. So you can actually be part of the program and look for new business ideas that are related to the shopping journey. It could be like displays within shops, or other type of ideas. And these guys and girls working for Mondelez work together with startups and try to find new businesses, new business ideas. And what I like a lot about this is that it allows young people to work together with other people from other generations, so it's cross-generational, and it also stimulates the startup mentality. And so if you look into this website of Mondelez, you will see that the idea is not to necessarily make money out of it by creating and selling startup ventures like they did with the Mobile Futures program, but it's more about stimulating young people to be an intrapreneur, you could call it, an entrepreneur within a corporate like Mondelez. Now, when we look at Generation Z, what I really like about them is their philosophy. One example is, excuse my French, fuck up nights. Fuck up nights are conferences built all around the world. It started in Mexico City, where young entrepreneurs are actually sharing the failure stories that they have been involved with. So you have a 12-year-old on stage stating that he started his own company at 10 and is totally broke today. And of course, also giving the reasons why it didn't work. So people are learning from each other, from the mistakes they made, from the failures they made. And I think it's typical, something that young generations would do. I don't know many Gen Xers that are so eager to talk about all the failures they've done in their lives. We are more into telling the success stories, right? So fuck up nights, one example. Fail conferences is another example. To the young generation, failure actually is an option, where it didn't used to be an option to my generation. Because to them, it's better to be absolutely ridiculous than it's to be absolutely boring. And a good example of philosophy is actually the imperfections in products. This is an example of Kraft Foods. Kraft spent 2 years in an R&D lab to create this oven roasted turkey breast that looks like it has been sliced by yourself at home on a wooden carving board, although it's manufactured in one of the Kraft manufacturers. But it took 2 years to adapt their manufacturers to be able to give this Kraft feeling again, to allow for imperfections in the production of their meat. And it's a good example of how companies understand that today imperfections are more perfect than perfections. When I first saw my youngest daughter, aged 8, playing with this Minecraft game, I thought there was something wrong with my high-speed internet connection because it looks totally blurred. You have all these blocks, and it looks more like a game created in the 1980s. Today, it's actually successful because it's different. And when I told her that, she said, yeah, that makes the game cool, right? Because, of course, we have augmented reality and Pokemons that we can look for everywhere around us. But it's so boring. Everything is perfect. So imperfections become more perfect. One brand that's quite jealous about this idea is Lego. Lego is all about building blocks. So when they saw that Minecraft was a success, they made a deal with Minecraft to create actually Lego building packages based on the characters within Minecraft. And then they created their own blocky universe called Lego Worlds. That's still in beta testing today. They launched it 1 year ago. Also Disney. Disney, sure you all know all the Disney figures. Whenever you're involved with a Disney license, you probably know that you will get all the directions. Like Mickey's left ear must be like 1 millimeter from the side. You cannot change anything on the figures of Disney. But today they have a game like Disney Crossy Roads that looks as blocky, as imperfect as Minecraft, because they know, of course, that Generation Z is into this type of stuff. So from perfection, they're moving to imperfection. So imperfection becomes the new perfection. Even if you look at celebrities today, whether it's Jay Lawrence or Lena Dunham, they're not the most perfect people. And they're quite open about their imperfections. Lena has written her own biography, talking about her imperfect love life, her very weird sex fantasies. And if you look at the HBO series, Girls, it's all about imperfections, actually. So to sum up, the second DNA aspect, Ready to Level Up, is about entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. It's about coaching young people. It's about gamifying this leveling up. It's about philosophy and imperfections. Let's go to the third DNA aspect. And this is a we aspect. We are dreaming of a better world. And one of the questions we've asked in our survey last year was, what do you think of gender equality? And not in this way, of course, but with a few statements. Again, I'm asking it to you. Do you think it's more something for baby boomers or for millennials? From the results of the study, and to my own surprise, baby boomers were more into this equality between men and women, as you can see in this graph. And also you see the orange bar. So Generation Z is most open to gender equality. And one of the trends we see in society with the youngest generation is the blurring of genders. You've probably seen this girl before. She's the daughter of Brangelina, Brad Pitt, and Angelina Jolie, Shiloh. And last year, Brad and Angelina actually decided to call Shiloh John, because Shiloh feels more like a boy since she was only 3 years old. Now, This is something that's happening with celebrities, and it's also mediatized. So many young people feel that the difference between boys and girls is probably something that we should skip. Another friend of mine, Miley, she rejects the binary definition of genders. She says, I'm feeling fluid. So one day I'm more a boy, another day I'm more a girl. Jaden Smith, the son of Will Smith, is actually the face of Louis Vuitton's women's collection today. So we see blurring happening in fashion, of course. We see the boyfriend jeans, girls wearing a jeans like boys wear their jeans. When you go to hipster cities today, you will see the hipster boys with nail buns, wearing their jeans like the girls are actually wearing the boyfriend jeans. So that's very confusing, but it's a good proof that the genders are blurring. If you look at content, Disney is a good example. Until 2009, typically we'd have a beautiful girl cleaning a house or preparing meals for some small people, I should say, until a beautiful prince comes along, a guy with a lot of money who owns not a Ferrari but a chariot, and they fall in love. She gets invited in the castle and can take care of all the children that they're producing together. That's the old storyline of Disney until 2009. And in 2009, the movie to the left, Princess and the Frog with Tiana, suddenly changed the storyline. In 2010, there was Rapunzel and Tangled. And in 2013, Frozen, Anna and Elsa, all about female bonding, sisterhood, and a storyline that's totally defined by what happens to the girls, and not depending on a guy driving along in his nice car and having a lot of bucks. So things are changing, and Mattel also understands this and moved from the one size Mattel to the different sized Barbie dolls, the original size, but also a curvy one, a petite one, and a tall one. Mattel is also working together with Warner Brothers and DC Comics. They've created these superhero comics that are aired on Cartoon Network since a few months. And so they're also selling this type of superhero dolls instead of just one Mattel girl. Barbie doll, I mean. Also in adult content, you see Game of Thrones, House of Cards. They all have strong female characters. And the further you go down the series, each year you will see the strong, tough men dying and females taking over the power in the series. Also in Divergent, Hunger Games, it's all about strong women. And Procter & Gamble as a brand actually understood this. For 13 years, they saw Unilever, one of the main competitors, creating a brand, Dove, with the campaign for real beauty, and it was very successful. Dove became the first $5 billion brand to Unilever. So at a certain point, like 2 years, 2 years and a half ago, Procter decided to use female empowerment as a new positioning for their Always product line. And today they're still using it because it is successfully working for them with the young generation. I will skip some questions as I see that time is running out. Another important thing to young people is actually the climate, global warming and the climate. This young boy, 17-year-old Dutch guy, is actually responsible of the ocean cleanup. He came up with an idea to clean the oceans, and by 2020, 40% of the world oceans will be cleaned from plastics, thanks to an idea of a 17-year-old boy. Some brands like G-Store Raw already have their recycled ocean plastic jeans, so it's quite important to do something back for society. They're dreaming of a better world. Also, the one-for-one business model, as used by Tom Shoes. If you buy a pair of Tom shoes, you're also donating a pair to people who don't have the money to buy shoes. And Tom's is one of the popular brands among millennials in the US and also starting in other countries. Tom's have donated more than 50 million pairs using this one-for-one business model. Enoughism is a trend related to dreaming of a better world. Some things that are popping up are, for instance, breakfast raves and lunch break raves, where young people are partying together in the morning or during lunch break without having alcohol or doing drugs, but just drinking healthy smoothies and having fun together. And some charity organizations like Cancer Research in the UK are already tapping into this idea. They're organizing a triathlon, asking people to give up alcohol for 1 month, September, and then every day is sponsored by their friends, every day that they're not drinking alcohol. And it taps into this idea of challenges. We find challenges all around Facebook, for instance, not using shampoo for a month because there are detergents or parabens inside the shampoo, not eating meat for 40 days or 60 days. These type of challenges tap into the idea that young people want to prove that they're actually able to achieve something, and also something that's good for society in general. Summing up this dreaming of a better world, we've been discussing about blurring genders, the one-for-one business model, and enoughism. And I would like to end my presentation with this last DNA aspect. It's related to this question. We asked the 4 different generations, what are you doing while you're actually watching the telly? And one of the options was, I'm messaging with my friends. And again, we asked different generations, how are you doing this? Who do you think was doing this the most? Was it the youngest ones, 14, 19, 4 to 19-year-olds, Gen Z, or millennials, 20 to 36-year-olds? In the study we saw, and these are the results, that although both next generations, both young generations, millennials, the greenish bar, and Gen Z, the orange bar, are surfing the internet, playing games, using social media while they're watching TV content, the ones that are chatting or texting the most with friends are actually the youngest ones, the 4 to 19-year-olds, which is why we call them a very snappy generation. When you look at the most popular words in texting in the past years, in 2014 it would have been LOL, laughing out loud, an acronym. In 2015 it switched to haha, which is the same as LOL, but not using text anymore, but a sound. And of course, today it's an emoji. So we're not using text anymore, we're using visuals. And that's also the reason why Facebook switched from only liking stuff to actually being able to express all types of emotions in their social media as well. It is an emotional generation. And brands understand this. Pepsi, for instance, this summer actually took off the brand logo from their bottles and replaced it with more than 70 different emojis that they've created themselves. They also localized the emojis to 100 different markets across the world, working together with Jeremy Scott, the fashion designer of Moschino. So they also were, for the summer campaign, summer promotion, creating sunglasses and jewels using the same type of emojis you will find on the Pepsi bottles. Also in charity, this V Agroforestry, a sustainable farming charity in Sweden, allowed their customers to actually donate money by just sending a tree, the emoji of a tree, to a certain number instead of texting or doing something online. And the more trees you sent, the more you were donating. Ephemeral media like Snapchat are of course related to the snappy generation, and some brands are working with this, with lenses that you can use on Snapchat, like this Gatorade example during the Super Bowl, where you could do a Gatorade dunk just like the winning team is traditionally doing with their coach. We have live media like Periscope or Facebook Live that are used more and more by brands. This is an example of Land Rover that is doing a live test drive where you can actually follow the entire test drive without parts being removed from the commercial, you could call it. You can ask direct questions live to the people driving the car, on the roads they're actually on. So it's more authentic, it's real, it's honest, it's open, it's transparent. And that's a good example of how new social media are working for brands. Another trend related to being snappy is the age of impatience. If you're on Reddit, a big online forum, bulletin board, probably you've seen this comment TL semicolon DR. It stands for too long, didn't read. It's all about people that don't want to read a previous long reply, but they have their own opinion. And increasingly, people don't want to wait for slower ones. So that's why we see slow lanes and fast lanes in shopping malls in the US, for instance. It is the age of impatience. It also means that people want to buy stuff from within the media that they're actually using. So we have been talking about e-commerce, m-commerce, t-commerce, but today we're talking about c-commerce. C-commerce is actually buying stuff within your WhatsApp or within your Facebook Messenger. So you have a direct connection with someone at KLM to actually book your tickets today. This is another example from the Netherlands, where an insurance company allows you to send in your damage report just using pictures and your WhatsApp. So you don't have to fill out any stuff online, or just send a WhatsApp with pictures of what happened. So this on-demand experience, it's also the way that Uber is actually positioned. It's all about getting stuff within 10 minutes, whether it's a ride, taxi ride, fresh meals, essential items from the 7-Eleven, the night shop. Everything is promised within 10 minutes. Christmas trees, puppies, kittens, they all deliver it within 10 minutes. It's the age of impatience. And phygital means a combination of digital tools to enhance the physical retail experience. One example is the Order and Pay. The Order and Pay app that was developed by Starbucks, and in the meantime, it's also sold to other companies, I've heard. There are 5.8 million active users of the app that allows you to pre-order your cappuccino a few minutes before you enter Starbucks, so that you can skip the queue and save not more than 5 minutes perhaps, but it still gives us the impression that we're saving time, and time is a very important currency to the young generation. Another example is how Volkswagen VW in Poland actually replaced their test drives with this Uber-style idea, where you can actually, using the app, ask VW to come and pick you up, for instance, at your work, and then you can drive a new model of a car that you want to try out to home or to wherever you want to go. So instead of having to go to a dealer somewhere with some aggressive sales people, you just book a test drive with some of the new models of VW, based on the Uber idea. And then the last point I want to make is phygital also means that there is still a role for the physical aspect in retailing. This is an example of Amazon in Japan, where you can buy wine online, but if you want some advice on the wine you want to buy, for instance, when you're preparing some lamb burgers or some lamb meat, then you can ask the Japanese sommelier to call you back at a certain time and give you advice on which wine you should buy online. So yes, there is still a role for physical experts, even if it's online. And yes, there is still a role for physical stores, and it's the third place role, you could say. If you look at Thumb Shoes, for instance, they call their stores community outposts. And it's more like a coffee bar where you meet other people, where you can drink also a one-for-one coffee. And on the walls of the coffee bar, you will see the eyewear, you will see the shoes that they're actually selling. Probably you will buy them online, but you get inspiration from just looking at them in the store while enjoying a coffee. Another great example is Nike. Nike has just launched their community stores. This one is the Flatbush one in Brooklyn, New York, where 80% of the staff, at least 80%, should be recruited from within 5 miles of the store. And they're also organizing after-school activities for students that are at schools in the immediate neighborhood of the store. So stores get a new function, and their function is actually to bond with other people, to connect with the community, also to be an employer in some certain neighborhoods. And the digital tools enhance our physical experience. So summing up, we've been talking about these 4 DNA aspects and all these consumer evolutions that we see emerging among the youngest generation. And well, we're almost 1 hour. I hope you got something out of this presentation, and I thank you a lot for your time. These are my contact details. I will now look at Emily and see if you have any questions for me. And yes, we do see a number of questions. Okay, one of the questions of, can I call the guy who asked the question? Yes, we're not concerned about privacy. Stan actually asked me, the things you're talking about, are they generational things, or is it just a normal life stage behavior? Well, Stan, when you look at the youngest ones, it's often a combination of both. When you look at more context-related stuff, for instance, if it's related to I'm still studying, or I'm still living at home with my parents, I'm still single, I don't have a relationship, I don't have kids, then of course this has an influence on people's consumer behavior. But when you think of values, also brand values, for instance, the me versus we aspects, the individualized versus group feeling, or when it's related to education or society, then it's more a generational thing. Generations are always part or children of two things: children of their parents and the way that they've been raised. And Gen Zers are raised in a more individual way than millennials, because their parents, Gen X, are more individual thinking people than the baby boomers. And also society is changing the way that the youngest generation is looking at the environment, for instance, or social goals, social entrepreneurship. So it's a combination. It's a combination of life stage and generational differences. How many people, also a question of Stan, how many people bought a special Oreo bag? Stan, well, I only know the figures that Mondelez is sharing, and they are stating that they get $2.7 billion in direct-to-consumer sales thanks to this hyper-personalizing of the Oreo cookies. So to me, that sounds like a success. I think that's all the questions for the moment. Any more questions? We still have 3 minutes. Yeah, one of the questions of Stan was, you interviewed 4 to 15-year-olds. Can they answer this kind of questions? Of course, as we're an ASMR member, we can only recruit young people through their parents, and for the youngest ones, we do ask their moms or dads to actually go through the questionnaire together to explain the questions. The statements that I've used in the deck are not necessarily the way that we actually were using them in the questionnaire as well, of course. We are a research agency, so we know what we're doing. Will we send out a presentation? Yes, says Emily. So we'll make sure you get the PDF of the presentation. Thanks, Melissa. And thanks everyone for your comments. If you have more questions, people do send me an email. You still have my contact details over there. You can find me on Twitter as well, on LinkedIn, and I'm sure if you Google me, you can find me on any possible social medium as well. Thanks a lot for your time. I hope you found it interesting, and this was also the end of our summer school. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope to see you soon in real life as well. Thanks, Lisa, for being there. We'll see you in New York soon. Bye-bye.